joining us for his first interview since joining the administration as U.S. Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent. Secretary Scott Bessent. I like the sound of that, Secretary Bessent.
Thank you, Larry.
Welcome.
Good to be with you.
Thanks for coming on. We appreciate it very much. You ever thought about this flap that's developing? I'm hearing about a 5-year, or Edward Lawrence is reporting a 5-year extension, not a 10-year extension, or other flotsam and jetsam that would interfere with the Trump tax cuts?
Larry, look, President Trump has a mandate. He came in to do big things, and one of the big things that this administration wants to do is make the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act permanent. And that permanency will continue to make the U.S. the #1 economy in the world in terms of growth. We're going to bring down inflation. We're going to cut regulations, and we are going to get the tax cut. The goal is still for them to be made permanent. And as you just said, that we are going to use current policy scoring, and the scoring that up until a year ago, I was a civilian. I've been looking at the CBO numbers for 35 years in my day job in the investment business, but I never understood the way the scoring works. And it is tilted towards spending, and that is why the spending has gotten out of control here in Washington.
As I understand it, you all, from the president on down, but especially you want to lower spending and lower the tax rate. I mean, and what law says you can't do both? Is there some biblical chapter that says you can't do both? It seems to me it's the right thing to do.
Well, Larry, look, the U.S. doesn't have a revenue problem. We have a spending problem. And I think we can up the revenues, we can up the growth, and most importantly, President Trump got elected because of this affordability crisis. And as the discussion, as Caroline Levitt was questioned recently, what is he going to do for the affordability crisis? Real wage growth for working Americans is the best way to fix this. We will contain prices, we will cut regulation, but real wages for hourly workers in the Trump administration, which you're a key part of, hourly workers' wages, they outbid supervisory wages. And, as I said, Wall Street, where you and I came from, has had it great. Wall Street can continue to do just fine. And now under this administration, it's Main Street's turn.
Now let's go back. Now you're the Treasury Secretary, or key advisor during the campaign, and you talked about 3-3-3. And Mr. Trump repeated 3-3-3 at a number of occasions. Tell us about 3-3-3. Do you still believe in it? What does it mean? What should people think about it?
Larry, I believe, now that I'm in the seat, I believe in it more than ever. And look, we didn't get to the debt and deficit problem overnight. And I noticed that Senator Schumer, who is now screaming about debt and deficit, when it was time to break open the piggy bank during COVID, and we moved from rescue to recovery, and the economy was already recovering, and the Democrats blew out the deficit, and they continued doing it right up until this past year. So as I've come into office, we are going to have the highest deficit to GDP we've ever had when we weren't in a war or a recession. So, but 6.7, 6.8% of GDP. So 3-3-3 means over the next few years, by the end of President Trump's term, getting the deficit to GDP down to something with a 3 in front of it, 3.5%, that's our long-term average. I think by cutting regulation, by sending this right signal to the market, we can create 3% plus economic growth, non-inflationary economic growth, which is, again, what you and the economic team of President Trump did last time, and the 3 million more barrel equivalent of energy produced by the U.S., produced in the U.S. That I had a meeting with Senator Sullivan from Alaska, and he enjoyed telling me that the Biden administration had sanctioned Alaska more than the Ayatollahs. And if part of the big energy agenda is energy dominance and energy security, and I'll tell you, that in some of the national security briefings that I've been in recently, a lot of the problems that we're seeing with Iran, with Russia have been these high, not only the high level of the oil prices, but where the oil is coming from. So we're going to get our budget deficit in order, we're going to up growth, and we are going to bring energy production home.
That gets you to about 16 some odd million barrels a day.
Well, no, total liquids. So total liquids, including nat gas, we're at about 21 now, 2021. So it'd be about a 15% increase on that base.
Which would get hold down inflation and would drop a lot of prices across the board. President Trump talks about this a lot. He has a very energy-centric view of inflation. And it is true. I mean, oil impact permeates the whole economy, impacts hundreds of consumer goods and various items that we use almost every day. So this would be a tremendous, this might be the way to finally slay Biden inflation.
Look, I couldn't agree more. And I believe that, as you said, when we talk about food prices, a big component of that is transport. And the inflation, the actual inflation number, only single digits of that is energy. But in terms of consumers' minds, and especially working class Americans, that the energy component for them is one of the surest indicators for long-term inflation expectations. So if we can get gasoline back down, heating the oil back down, then those consumers not only will be saving money, but their optimism for the future will allow them to rebuild their lives that they had to struggle with over the past 4 years.
And so, Mr. Secretary, let's go back, step back a minute. How do you see today's economy right now? Growth, inflation, interest rates. How do you look at it when you speak with the president, more or less? What do you suggest?
Well, Larry, what we've seen is this gigantic government spending that has been fueling the growth. And I've talked about it several times in your show. During last year, we're reprivatizing the economy. And we are going to have private sector jobs. We're going to do that, obviously, being the energy sector. We are going to have smart, safe, and sound bank regulation to get small, medium banks bringing again to Main Street. And we're going to bring manufacturing home again. So I think that we've had an economy that's been supported by the government. We are going to slowly force that back to the private sector. We're going to bring down the government spending, get up the CapEx, and bring good-paying jobs home. Because the reason under the Biden administration you haven't gotten real wage growth, government doesn't give real wage growth because they increase with the inflation level.
So this is basically you want to reprivatize. What you're saying is you want more business investment, and the business investment creates jobs and higher wages. And that was the point of the Trump tax cuts going back 8 years ago when some of us first started working on them. And the thing that drives me crazy, God, I hate to revisit this, but this CBO stuff and some weird things I'm hearing from some of our Republican friends. The Trump tax cuts didn't produce growth. Yes, they did. Didn't raise wages. Yes, they did. Didn't enhance productivity. Yes, they did. But hang on a second. Didn't raise revenues? Yes, they did. Why are people panicking on Capitol Hill? Why am I hearing 5-year extensions? As you say, the president hasn't said that. Why are we hearing about why are we hearing the tax cuts blow a hole in the budget deficit? I'd say tax hikes would blow a hole in the budget deficit.
Look, if you want to look at an analysis, what's going to blow not only a hole in the budget deficit, in the economy, and in the lifestyles of working class Americans is if we do not get this tax bill done. And as I said in my Senate hearing, this is pass-fail for our side of the aisle, and we will have the largest tax hike in history. And that will be on the people on our side who do not try to move this forward.
Yes, sir. Now, Trump critics say he always wants lower interest rates, and he always wants a cheaper dollar. Do you have a riposte to that? Or maybe that's true, or what do you think?